Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first session of this conversation that we are going to have this evening. My name is Erica Gosse, and my host is Jeanne Waluchio. As I've seen from the many advertisements, from the posters inviting you for today, today is actually the day that we have this conversation. So I want to welcome you in a special way. Find your space, grab a glass of water, pick up your book, your notebook and pen, and join in and listen in. Ask your questions on the chat. Listen in. Prepare yourself for an honest conversation, a dialogue that no employer can organize for you about our career growth, our uh, career path, and everything discussing about career. So let's jump right at it. Welcome very much. Feel free. For the next 1 hour, I'm gonna be your host, and my guest is gonna be Jeanne Waluchio. So you feel most welcome. So, by way of introduction, Jeanne is a seasoned HR, a certified career mentor, and Jeanne has sat in all levels of the HR management, talent management, career development. She has crafted policies, sat in boards to discuss career and growth and talent and how to bring out the best in people. She has served in various industries, both locally and internationally, and she fits the profile for someone who can have an honest conversation and say it the truth as it is. So I'm sure you're going to get great insights from this conversation, and you're going to learn a lot from my guest, Madam Jeanne Waluchio. I'm so grateful and thankful that you have agreed to join us in this first session. And I'm sure the preparation, the presentation that you've put in place for us is going to be very insightful. So everyone, please, karibuni sana and welcome, Madam Jeanne.
Thank you, Eric, for that very, very good and elaborate introduction. As Eric has rightly put it, I am Jeanne Waluchio, a senior HR professional with over 20 years of experience, having worked in various sectors that speak to my agility in HR. Today is an exciting day to talk about careers, career management, getting unstuck. And one thing I will say is there's no specific formula to it, not one shoe fits all. And I think it will be an exciting conversation. I'll obviously start with a presentation before we move into the exciting conversation. So I wish us the very best even as we move into this. We are all at different stages. We are all at different stages. And some of us may be clamped into the same stage. But as we move along this presentation, you'll get to understand, what does career management mean to me? Where am I? What do I need to do? How do I get unstuck? And let's keep the conversation going. So in terms of where we are from a progress perspective, career management, I've put it in 5 distinct processes. So there's exploration, and I'll talk about exploration in terms of when you're just starting your career. Establishment, when you finally realize, hey, I want to work in HR, I want to work in communications, I want to work in marketing. Now you're very clear about where you want to be from your career, and you're now sure of what you'd like to do going forward. And as someone has also said, it will be tied to your purpose in some cases. As we move along, we'll get to ask ourselves very important questions in terms of where we are and what we need to do. Mid-career, we shall look at it in terms of being an anchor, whereby now you're established, you really know what you need to do, what you need to deliver, your certifications, how you need to grow. We shall discuss these aspects. Before you move to late career, I've inserted another stage there, which is executive, and we shall still look at it. And then we shall look at decline. But is decline the end? I don't think so. And one thing I will keep on saying, career management sometimes cannot all be put in a box. Depending on where you are, your thought process, your resilience, thinking out of the box, you can always reinvent yourself. So that for me will be the base, even as we discuss career management and how to move forward. That quote is very important, even as we discuss career management. Opportunities don't happen, you create them. So this is an opportunity to sit in, listen, give your contribution, but also internalize and ask yourself self-awareness questions in terms of, do I know myself? Do I know how I want to grow, where I want to grow, and how do I change? So let's look at the career steps. Exploration. I shall refer to this step as when you're an intern or you're really at a point where you are just discovering what you would like to do. And this is usually either at your undergraduate or graduate degree. Like for me, my undergraduate is actually in BCom, accounting. And look at me, I'm in HR. So exploration is a very interesting place because maybe your undergraduate degree in terms of what you did might not be what will be your final career, but it will contribute to your thought process. My accounting that I did, as much as I've moved into HR, has helped me in whether it is budgeting, whether it is analytics. So it has contributed to my career right now. And obviously to move into HR, there are certain things I had to learn. I had to go back to school, but there was a foundation, which is the exploration stage. Establishment, initial job search. That point when you're creating a CV and there's nothing to put in there, and you're trying to put in, was I a leader in school? What attributes can I put in that will get me to the interview table? At this point, you are likely to accept an entry-level job. And there's some people who are really lucky to actually get into management trainee programs, whether it is in the banking sector or FMCG, and this then propels their career. But not all are as lucky. I did not start as a management trainee. I actually started as stores clerk, ensuring I carry out at the end of every month, I ensure that I take stock of the stock that's within the store. We all start at a certain level. Not all of us will start at the management trainee level. Maybe not all of us will have a big connection there, but we start somewhere. There is a base. And that base will either help you think in terms of what do I want going forward. And obviously starting as working in the stores, I asked myself, is this what I want? But that was what was available then. And having an accountant background, I remember at one point, I needed to pay the workers within the organization through petty cash. And some stole some money as I was paying. And I asked myself, will I be able to do this? So that was almost my aha moment, my turning point in terms of, I don't think I can do this, but everyone has their journey and their journey will help direct them into where they are. So during this period then is when you're able to ask yourself, what would I like to do in terms of the jobs that I have? And then what happened? I moved into an admin assistant role in a HR department. So where did I start? Entry level, admin assistant, doing everything and giving my best and knowing HR. I was there for about 3 months and I said, this looks good. This works for me. I like working with people. I like interacting with people. I liked the department I worked in. I like seeing compensation. I like looking at learning and development. I liked the aspect of management training. And I said, this is a career I would like to undertake. And obviously then it forged my career going forward. So where are you now? Even as I speak to the people that have logged in, where are you in terms of entry or mid-level? Then you move to your mid-career. And here is where the stability and progression, you're very clear about your field. So in this particular place, then you decide, hey, I think I need to take up certifications. I think I need to be involved in higher things within the organization, within my profession. So I pause there and ask, where are you between establishment and mid-career for those who are here? And if you're in mid-career, do you want to transition into a new profession? Is it possible? What do you need to do? And we'll talk about some of these things. You'll also find in some situations, some employees don't pass the mid-career. They actually stay there, and that's their peak level. And the question is, if you're feeling you're not moving past the mid-career, how do you reinvent yourself? How do you reinvent your skill? Because not everybody can move to the executive career level. How do you ensure that you still remain relevant? I think one of the key things the pandemic taught us is you need to reinvent, reskill, upskill. We've seen what's happening in the tech industry. We've seen how remote working has come about. So depending on the industry that you've been in. So even from a personal level, what are you doing to refresh and reskill? What about if you want to go into the executive career level? So this is someone who facilitates and implements strategy. Obviously, there is administration also at the executive level. You'll be very surprised. It is actually there. It is part of the job because there's a lot of coordination, but there's also the authority aspect that you need to have with you. After executive level, sometimes we start slowing down, assuming that you've gone through all these career stages and now you don't want as much a demanding work environment as has been before. So you ask yourself, okay, so what is happening next? What interventions do I need to undertake? And finally, decline, whereby now people retire. But I keep on saying, throughout these stages, even the decline stages, you're still useful to society. You can still give back to society, and that still speaks to career. So today, I throw back the question to you in terms of where are you right now? Define yourself. You might be at mid-career and you're thinking, this is not the career I want. I need to go back to start, reinvent myself. What do I need to do differently? So how do we get unstuck? I've talked about the ideal, I keep on saying career management. We've had these talks before, and I'm sure this is a refresher. But how do we get unstuck? How do we move on? You have been in a job for 5 years, 10 years, and you just feel, look, I need to reinvent. I need to do different. I need to grow. For some, it's, hey, I need financial independence. So when you're at entry level, you need to discover your interests. What are the basic skills you need to develop at this stage? What are the expectations you need to have? So I always tell young people that I interact with nowadays, I can't believe I call people young. Long time I was also in that bracket, but that just tells you how life progresses. That join forums like Toastmasters. And if you can't join these quorums, practice in front of a mirror. There's YouTube, you have data bundles. Learn. Sometimes you don't have time, but how do you develop yourself? When you're establishing yourself, one of the key things I say is find a mentor. A mentor will guide you, and not a mentor, somebody who is just your friend and tells you what you like to hear, but someone who will tell you the truth. Someone who will tell you, hey, you need to change your trajectory. Someone who will tell you, you need to go back to school. Someone who will tell you, you need to present better. Performance reviews, we call them the dreaded appraisals, but also go back and ask, what feedback have I received? And sometimes take a step back, almost an out-of-body experience, and look at yourself and ask, the feedback I was given, is it true? Is it honest? Is there anything I can change to make myself better? And then pursue licenses, certifications. I know in sometimes the situations where, hey, there's financial constraint in what we're doing, but there are free online courses. there's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's EDX. So you might not get a certificate, but your mindset will change. When people meet you, when you go into a forum, the kind of conversations, your contributions are at a higher level, at a different level, and you will attract the right people to you. What about mid-career? It's about discussing with your supervisors what opportunities are there internally for growth or externally. Remember, do not box yourself. Think outside the box. Think, what do I want for myself? This is the one time you can be selfish, or you ought to be selfish and say, what do I want for myself? How can I grow? Does this job satisfy me? And yes, you may have bills to pay. We have to be realistic about these things. Then what do you do out of the ordinary? What do you do if you have to work 8 maybe to 10 p.m. or 8 to another 6 p.m.? What do you need to do? So I'll give my own experience in terms of mid-career and some of the things I've done. I've completed my master's much later. In fact, I'm meant to graduate this year. And what did I do that was different? What I did that was different was wake up early and study, and then start my day. So there's a book by Robin Sharma, The 5 a.m. Club. It works. So how are we going to make ourselves better and visible? And then sometimes also look at job advertisement and look at the skills and competencies that people are looking for, and ask yourself, do I have these skills? Do I have these competencies? I know there are situations where maybe your skill set cannot move from one industry to another, but upskill, and network. Network, whether it is within the organization. Don't just sit at your desk and work. Yes, that is important, but network, and also let your conversation be at a higher level. Let your conversation be at a higher level, and you'll be surprised at the opportunities that will open, both within, and also they may open outside the organization, because then people have a reference point. Do you know this person? I've spoken to them. I like what they say. I like what they hear. How have they branded themselves? What about executive careers? So this is at a higher level where you've already gained the management experience, but now it's about being strategic. And if you want to get to this space, you need to take lead in company change. Change is one of the most uncomfortable and difficult things to do, but it is one of those things that will put an awesome feather in your cap. So involving yourself in company change. And I keep on saying, even if you're trembling, take the step ahead, take the step forward, and be involved. Learn about being a board member. Join networks. And I keep on saying, if you can't join networks, the internet has so many resources right in there. And then find a coach. Why do I say a coach, especially at the executive level? A coach is really ideal because they help you think and come out with the solutions yourself. A mentor will guide you and give you the solutions. So at an executive level, you need to be able to come up with solutions, and that is why a coach is important. At the lower levels or the other levels, it is important to get a mentor who guides you, who walks with you, who tells you what to do. And also at that level, you need to have a sponsor, someone who will talk about you in rooms that you're not in. Someone who understands you enough from a skills and competence perspective and will be able to sell you in terms of your capability. And then we move into late career. Here is where we sort of start slowing down. You don't have the energy you had when you were in exploration or establishment. And here it's about starting to take things easy. You can do gardening, biking, or photography. Join a club to avoid also being so lonely later in life, whenever you go or you've decided to settle somewhere in the village. And finally, decline. Decline is where you'll find people are not really engaged actively in employment, but still you need to engage your mind. You need to engage your mind, you need to read, you need to socialize. I believe there's a study I was actually reading about Alzheimer's disease, that if you've been keeping your mind active, you've been reading, you're meeting, you're socializing with people, sometimes it decreases the chances. I'm not a medic, but this is just information you read about the brain. So now I'll throw it back to you in terms of where are you? What do you need to do? So what is your true north? What do you enjoy doing and what are you passionate about? Are your skills transferable? And then how do you market yourself? So we've talked about how to elevate yourself, having a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, networking, reading. How do you elevate yourself? But also it's important to know your values. What really matters to you? Because as you grow in your career, you will find there'll be politics. You will find there are situations that you do not agree with. So at what point do you stand firm and say, no, I will not do this? Or at what point do you say, I will walk away? So it is important to know your true north, what you want and how best to achieve it. So if you're not achieving it right now in your workplace, how do you grow yourself? How do you do extra just outside the workplace? And it can be a hobby. I remember there is one person, I think, if I may mention her name, Margaret, I think wrote a book at one point. She stretched herself. You have to move out of your comfort zone. It's the most uncomfortable feeling, but it will help you. And then look at the options available. Look at the options available and see, what do I choose? And if there's no option now, what do I envision going forward? What steps do I take? Is there a mentor? Is there certification? Are there things I need to do out of the ordinary? Who do I need to network with? Who do I need to talk to? So how do I go about doing it? It seems simple, but it's not as simple. I'm very well aware. And it takes years. As I've told you, it's a journey and it's a lifelong journey. You'll need to define your goal. Your goal may be, for some, it may be, I want to become a CEO, but how do I get to becoming a CEO? I want to become a manager. How do I get to become a manager? How do I exhibit the goals or the competencies and skills of becoming a manager before I get there? Don't get too comfortable. Don't say, hey, the future is terrible. Let me just work. No. Don't get too comfortable. Then be an expert in your field. Be a thought leader. Be a CEO in what you are doing. If an opportunity comes along, say yes. It is said that when men look at a job advert, if they have 60% of the skills and competencies that are within the advert, they'll apply. But for women, it's at 100%. So if you're a lady, go for it. Imposter syndrome is there, but go for it. And then network. Opportunities sometimes are as a result of networking. Jobs are as a result of networking, both internally and externally. It is very important to do these things. So yes, working hard is important. Delivering on your targets is extremely important, but you have to take the approach of getting out there. So if you're an introvert, you have to get out of your comfort zone and go out there and interact, get ideas, and get feedback. And finally, stay hungry, stay foolish. This is a quote by Steve Jobs. I love it. Why? Because when we say stay foolish, it's keep on asking the questions. Let people say, oh, you were bold enough to ask, and they wanted to ask that question. So stay hungry, read. If you're not a fan of books, read blogs, read articles, understand what's happening in the world, read Business Daily online. If you can't buy the Business Daily, every day read. Every day ask yourself, what little thing have I learned? How have I challenged myself? So I've just put there some 3 books. Who Moved My Cheese? This is about paradigm shift. This is about realizing that the status quo is no longer applicable. So it's a small book, but it is powerful. Read it today and ask yourself, so has my cheese moved and what do I need to do? I've talked about the 5 a.m. club. For some of us who are morning people, we are able to wake up. And for those who are not morning people, what do you do? How do I achieve my goals beyond? And there's a book, The Rules of Work, very insightful book, just about how to grow within an organization, how to carry yourself, how to brand yourself. Those are really important aspects, soft housekeeping items that would help you really grow within an organization or even outside the organization, both on a personal and a professional perspective. So the final slide, it's not end, I've put it as start, because if you have not started, start today. If you have not been networking, network. If you don't read, maybe you don't like reading books, try. If you don't, read blogs, read the paper, understand what's happening, elevate your conversation, get that mentor, get that coach, network, draw your career path, and let's see where this takes you. Back to you, Kagose, even as we open up the session to the rest.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeanne. That was a powerful presentation. Thank you very much. Just as you are talking, some questions are coming in and some thoughts are running through my mind. And one of the things I'm asking myself is transition. Transition from a point of how do I know I am ready to transition to the next phase? Or how long should it take for me to transition between starter to the next phase? If you can say something about that.
Transition is a very interesting aspect because, one, you need to understand yourself. So, for example, and I'm assuming you're talking of transition in terms of the startup bit, the elevator, the mid-career, the executive career. Is that what you're asking about?
Yes, yes.
So for me, I think the best way is to map out where you want to be. So you've been in a role for a certain number of years. You realize everything is routine. There is no challenge. It's time to transition. Always get uncomfortable. Do not get comfortable. So whenever you feel very comfortable in a situation, you're not learning anything new, it is not challenging you, it's time to move. It is time to move.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's also sometimes when we do have that energy to make the bold step to say I'm good enough for the next role. Or I think this I have it's time to get to the next level. That is usually a really interesting phase for most of us. The other thing is about finding a footing, especially for starters. Finding a footing. You must. A lot of people will tell you I've been applying for jobs to find a footing, but I don't seem to find something. What are some of the maybe the small tips that you can ask tell us the young people how to just find a footing in the workplace?
Okay. I think one of the key things is either decide to volunteer. As we know, it is where the economy is where it is, and there may be difficult times. So try and volunteer. Look for a place where you can even carry out a project. Go to a consultancy firms. They're little consultancy firm, and ask whether you can help them in carrying out either a small project or any other assignment. And then also go onto the internet. I think nowadays there are many jobs on virtual assistants that people can actually be able to just grow their skill and maybe even earn something. So nowadays work is borderless. You know, we're a global village. So if you're not able to get the physical job, then go into the internet and search for virtual opportunities. There are cases where there might be time difference, so you'll have to sacrifice, sleep and wake up early, or sleep late. So depending on where you're looking and what you want to do, then you have to dare to go out there. So go check onto the internet at their virtual assistant jobs, but keep on growing that skill. It may be discouraging in terms of looking for a job, especially when you're not getting, but I am sure as you keep on growing that skill, you will get something. And if not, then think, how do I either move into entrepreneurship, or alternatively, who can I connect with who will help me grow in the market?
That's true. Thank you very much, Jeanne. There's another aspect of when you're in the career stages, and then for whatever reason something happens and you lose your track and you are out of a job for some time, and in between there you feel a bit lost. What are some of the things that someone can do, especially if for one reason you left the job, not people will say not in a very good note, maybe you are fired or for whatever reason, but then you need to bounce back into the job market, so that you can with the journey. What are some of the things that we can look at?
So you've said something very important. You can have lost the job, and you also said there's the aspect of being fired. So sometimes when you're fired, obviously getting back into the job market, depending on the reason behind it, may be difficult. So these are now situations where, do you reinvent yourself? Do you change your career? Do you get a sponsor who speaks for you, saying, look, this is a good individual, maybe they made a genuine mistake and they were let go. And so they're willing to give you an opportunity, especially in that case. And then there's a situation where you lose a job. So here it can be quite difficult, especially if jobs are not forthcoming. So you have to think out of the box in terms of what opportunities can be there. What opportunities can I get out of employment? And this is where you have found people actually changing their careers completely and going back to starting. I know a couple of people who times have been difficult for them. They have lost their jobs and they've gone into farming and are doing well. But also farming has its liabilities, because sometimes the rains won't come.
Yeah, that's true.
So in everything there is a risk, but it's about looking at the opportunities available and reinventing yourself.
Majority, a good number of us, at the moment, my organization does not support my growth. HR is not doing good enough. I'm not feeling as if I am getting I'm making good value of myself in my current space. What would you advise such kind of a person?
First things first. Are you self-aware? What different skill do you bring to the table? What is different that you're bringing to the table? So yes, you're coming in, you're working, which is truly appreciated. What different skill are we bringing to the table? If there are internal job opportunities, for example, in your current organization and you don't want to go out, are you applying and are you preparing before you go into the interview? Sometimes we go into the interview assuming that we know, this will be a walkover, and you go in, by the time you leave, you're sweating, you're asking yourself, I was not prepared. How prepared are we? The other aspect is get involved in projects within the organization. Get involved in projects where you are seen. It is the reality. You have to be seen. You have to be seen. Even when you're applying for a job, you have to send a resume and an application letter. It has to be seen for the person to actually call you and interview you. So it is important to be seen. Then do not be shy about your achievements. Blow them. Let people know what you have done. Let people be aware of what you have done. It is important. And you'll be surprised. Someone somewhere will one day realize, look, this person is actually good. Let me take them on. And you'll see your growth happening. It may take a short time, and in some cases it may take a longer time, but you'll realize you will start growing with time.
That's a good one. There's something that you've mentioned about networking, which most people interpret or misinterpret as politics. How do you strike a balance between networking with the right people and having the politics surrounding it in an organization? You know, there are some people who say, ule aligrow kwa sababu ule ni mtu wa nani, unajua huyu ni wa nani na me I'm not aligned to so and so. How do you navigate that networking aspect of it vis-a-vis the politics?
That's an interesting question. So I look at networking in different ways. There's networking within people who are experts in your field. Okay. So for example, in the HR profession, in the marketing profession, in the analyst profession, in the ops profession, are there forums you can actually have discussions in? So this is also from an external perspective. When you go into the likes of Toastmasters and you discuss and you're visible there, that's still a networking. So that's from an external perspective. From an internal perspective, what do I refer to networking? One, learn what is happening in other departments, what's happening in other units. What's the strategy of the organization? How can I be involved in things outside my comfort zone? How can I be involved? And whether you like it or not, to be honest, politics will always happen. Even in a family, there's the favorite child. So politics will always happen. And there's the child who may not be considered the most favorite, but is still loved by the parent. So politics is a way of life, but what I will always tell people, when there's politics, play clean, always play clean, don't play dirty. Play clean, let your work speak for yourself, network, speak to the people. And sometimes you might say, maybe, especially in the banking sector, I'm in a branch far away, tucked away somewhere. Who will ever see me? Who will ever know me? But then now that is your opportunity. When there are regional forums, is there a way you can be seen by your regional branch manager? How can you just influence as you move along? And influence is an interpersonal skill. So you have to develop it as you go through the career stages. Communication is a skill that you need to develop.
Thank you. That's powerful. Someone is asking, and I think you mentioned it earlier, the other responsibilities that affect our career growth. Some will be about taking care of our families and siblings and maybe sick parents or something like that, or your budget is just a bit tight. How do you go about finding a balance or a mix between agreeing to register for another course that you sure you look like it is tying to your goal, and taking care of a sibling or taking care of your day-to-day? How do you cope?
There are times you have to make sacrifices. There are times you will delay some of these things. And even just as I mentioned, like for me, I did my master's last year. I would have done it earlier, but there are certain things that obviously needed to be done. So I had to delay that. But what did I do in the interim? Obviously, grow my skill. And that is why I talked about there's the Udemy, there's the Coursera, there's the EDX. They're free online programs that you can do that will not necessarily lead to your master's, but will elevate the kind of conversation you have. Okay? So yes, I totally understand in terms of family commitment, it's the reality. Then how do I elevate my thought process? How do I elevate my thinking? How do I elevate the project papers that I submit? You still have to continuously learn. You still have to continuously learn so that when the opportunity then comes, and as you said, the finances are in place, then you're able to plug that gap. So go into, if you can, the internet, there are free courses and you can learn. That is what I would say would be an interim. As you keep on saving, as you keep on looking at your family situation, and hopefully then the situation will change very soon.
Thank you, Jeanne. That's very insightful. I'm seeing we are almost at the 8 p.m. mark. It was a 1 hour session. And I would like to thank you, all of you, for joining in. And I'm sure, personally, I've really learned a lot from the session, from the presentation. Actually, I didn't know that there's that alignment between where you start and where you grow, and even at the point where you somehow become useless. Okay, that's my interpretation. But now at least I know. So thank you very much.
Just to interrupt you, it's not the word useless. In fact, when I was thinking about this whole career process, I was reading about Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC.
Yeah, interesting.
I think quite a number of his recipes were actually rejected by so many restaurants. He made a break, I think, well past his 40s. Vera Wang, and these are more of the people out there. Vera Wang is a fashion designer. I think she made her break towards her 50s. So once again, the one thing I will say, yes, we have gone through this process, but don't lock yourself in a box. If you're somewhere, there's still room to reinvent yourself. There's still room to look out there and say, what are the opportunities? What do I like? What am I passionate about that can become an opportunity, make me money, make me happy, and be purposeful? So it is not that we shall be useless, but we can still reinvent ourselves and still give our wisdom even to the younger generation that's coming up.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeanne. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming in for the session. Thank you very much. I hope you have taken a few notes. This is one of the many conversations I wish to be holding, because I realize that we have to grow. And if the way Jeanne has alluded, you need to have a mentor, you need to have a career guide, you need to have someone who is holding your hand. You have to be purposeful about your career. You have to ask yourself those questions every single day. Where am I? Where am I going? What do I need to do? What do I want to become? What is the highest level that I want to reach in my career? If you're comfortable with being in the startup place, please enjoy the place. But if you want to move and become more impactful, depending on how you view being impactful is, please, we have Jeanne as Jeanne has guided. Take charge of our career, be intentional about it, look for someone who can hold your hands and hold conversations about your growth, and consistently be deliberate. Put in a bit of sacrifice about our growth. Nothing comes easy anyway, and without pain, there is no gain. So when you're sitting there waiting for your employer to promote you because you think you have all it takes, then someone out of nowhere is getting promoted, and you're like, this employer is not fair. And then you're thinking that it's because my job is so good, I don't need to talk to anyone, I don't need to interact, to network with anyone in the organization, I don't need to have someone who can speak for me when I'm not in the room, and you think that my job will speak for me. We have seen sometimes it should, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's about mixing every single part of it, networking, being good at your job, ensuring that you have the right documentation, the right paperwork, the right credential, and they blend in together, and you put in the purposefulness. I think that is the take home for me from the entire this conversation. So yeah, so this is one of the many sessions we're going to have. I'm going to invite you hopefully soon for another one. Feel free to join in. I'll share the write-up, a few points from this. We are also going to load this conversation on our YouTube page. Please, you can feel free to follow me on Conversations with Eric Kagose on YouTube. And I wish to build this up, not for my own sake, but for your sake, for the sake of all of us, that we all may grow. Up to that point, I wish probably you can unmute and say thank you to Jeanne, and you can side chat me if you don't have my if you can't do it here. If you have my mobile, please side chat me. I'm on email kagoseeric@gmail.com. Feel free to send in your questions. If you need your CV reviewed or revamped, you can also talk to me. If you want to have a one-on-one conversation about all this career discussion, please feel free to hit me up. Send me an email. I'll create time and we can have this conversation. Sawa. Up to that point, it is exactly 8:01 at the dot, and I want us to close. So unmute. You can maybe say thank you on the chat box, or if you want to say thank you, please proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank
Kagose
you.
Eric.
Thank
Kagose
you.
Eric@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Eri@gmail.com.
Kagose Eric
@gmail.com.
@gmail.com. Eric, is this ERICK?
Yes, Eric, ERICK.
Okay.
So it's
Kagose
Eric@gmail.com. On YouTube is Conversations with Kagose, Eric Kagose. On LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn, not because I don't have work to do, but I'm intentional about this conversation. So feel free.
Wow.
I'll get in touch.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. See you next time.
Lovely evening.
Yeah, see you next
Good
time.
night.
Thank you very much, Jeanne.
Thank you,
Thank you
Eric.
so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Be blessed.